2025, I saw 18 different movies in theaters. These ranged from really good to really bad, and while I didn't get to see everything I wanted to, there were a few that really stood out among the rest. So today, I'm gonna rank from number 18 all the way to number 1 to give you my list of the top movies that came out in 2025. As a disclaimer, I didn't get to see all the movies I wanted to, and the main reason I'm saying this is because I didn't get to see One Battle After Another by Paul Thomas Anderson. I really enjoyed his movie There Will Be Blood, but I didn't really have any friends that wanted to go see it, so I didn't end up seeing it and I haven't watched it on my own yet. Some other movies that I didn't get to see but I wish I did include The Phoenician Scheme, The Naked Gun, Begonia, Eternity, 28 Years Later, Together, Eddington, Warfare, and The Smashing Machine. Along with this, I also watched F1 and Mickey 17 on my own time, but since I didn't see them in theaters and it was pretty much after they were out of theaters, I can't include them on this list. This is your official spoiler warning for the video. I talk about a lot of different key plot points in each of these movies, so if you want to skip through one, you can just go to the chapters and skip to the next movie. Now without further ado, here's my list of the movies I saw in theaters in 2025, starting with Growing up a huge fan of the Five Nights at Freddy's games when I was younger, I actually had pretty high expectations for this movie, especially off the first trailer that they dropped, which actually looked pretty good. However, the only part of this movie where I actually enjoyed it was the Corey X. Kenshin cameo, which made my entire theater clap. Also Matthew Lillard screaming.
Don't you know you're my favorite? Don't you know that I love you? Don't you know that I care about you?
Other than that, this movie is just so boring and unoriginal. Like, I get they're trying to do something other than the game's original storyline, but at least make it good. I can't even lie, I was kind of falling asleep at the end of this movie, but I'm not even mad, because I was so tired of this character and Toy Chica that I felt like I would be better off just getting sleep than watching this movie in the theater. I wouldn't say this is one of the worst movies I've ever seen, but it was definitely my least favorite that I saw in 2025, unless you compare that to I'm a huge fan of slashers, and I hadn't seen any of the I Know What You Did Last Summers before seeing this movie, but I ended up watching the kill count so that I could kind of have a basis on what they're about, and I had pretty high expectations. This movie is basically a requel of the first two movies, which didn't do so well as far as ratings go, and you can really tell that they wrote themselves into a lot of corners with this movie, especially in the fact that Madeline Klein's character just gets thrown overboard and then washes up on shore at South Park. Along with this and the ultimately underwhelming reveal of the killer, this movie kind of ties with Five Nights at Freddy's 2 at just being boring. Also, the part where Tyreek Withers' character got killed by the killer standing behind that statue so obviously was so dumb. It's scenes like this that really just made the movie feel even more stupid than it already was. And ultimately, I'm just trying to forget that I watched this movie last summer. I had never really been a huge fan of the original Jurassic Park and World movies, but my girlfriend wanted to see this one, so I decided why not. It wasn't really a bad movie per se, but to me it wasn't very good either. It just felt very over-dramatized with no real stakes. Like, a lot of the characters, especially the kids, got out of situations that they definitely shouldn't have. I'm not saying they should kill a kid, but, you know, there's no stakes. But as far as the series goes, another reboot might be a good idea, because based on how the last Jurassic World movies were performing, they definitely need to do something different. I think they're still trying to capture the feeling of the original movie, and they haven't been able to replicate it since that. Another frustrating part about this movie is the product placement, because it was genuinely everywhere. Almost every scene would have some over-the-top product placement that would be in the background or foreground, and the worst one was the fact that the entire movie's conflict laid on a Snickers bar wrapper. To sum it up for you, the only reason that there's this huge destructive dinosaur roaming around is because there was a scientist that was eating a Snickers bar, and the wrapper came off and flew into a vent that then short-circuited the gate and caused the D-Rex to escape. Yeah, it's product placement and illogical writing like this that is really causing movies to fail nowadays, and I think this is what really dragged the movie down besides the kind of underwhelming plot. Okay, just do the review now. Do the review. Do it!
Okay. Hey guys, it's Briella. My boyfriend John kidnapped me and told me that I have to review Jurassic World Rebirth or else
he's gonna do something to me that I can't say.
Anyway, we saw Jurassic World Rebirth in theaters this summer, and I kind of knew this was gonna happen, but I would definitely say it's one of the worst installments in the Jurassic Park, Jurassic World series. Growing up, Jurassic Park and Jurassic World were some of my favorite movies, so I've watched every single one of them. But at the end of the day, Michael Crichton originally only wrote 2 books, and once they used up all the material from those 2 books, they kind of went downhill from there. And at some point, dinosaurs on the loose and people trying to capture them just gets old, and there's not much you can do anymore. It was fun to watch one time because there was a lot of jump scares, and it was just kind of interesting to see what would happen, but they weren't anything crazy or memorable. And I probably would never watch this movie again. So yeah, but I just keep watching all the Jurassic movies because it's kind of nostalgic, I guess. But yeah. BA out.
Going into 2025, this was one of the movies I was looking forward to seeing the most. Jordan Peele has created some of the best horror movies that I've ever seen, and I really loved Nope, so I've been waiting for whatever his next project was going to be for a couple years now. And it wasn't until I was in the theater that I realized that Jordan Peele only produced this movie and didn't direct or create it. And man, the ending of this movie sucks. I wouldn't have ranked it this low if they just ended the movie with him killing Marlon, but it was the over-the-top and ridiculous manner that this movie ended in that made me not like it so much. I mean, seriously, it was not a bad movie until like the last 5 minutes whenever they just went completely overboard with the killing of everyone in a big bloody massacre on a football field. I'm almost 99% sure that the ending of this movie was supposed to be a lot more tame, but then someone in the studio was like,
Hey Jordan, it's Dave from Universal.
"Oh, hey Dave, is there something wrong?"
Yeah, so about that movie you're making, you...
Him?
Yeah, him. Yeah, we just need way more blood. Like, way more blood.
Is there something wrong with it? I don't understand.
It's not bad, it's just not what we're looking for in this film.
Okay, well, I actually spent a really long time working with the director, and I know his vision, and I don't think we need to make it more bloody.
Yeah, well, maybe just change the ending scene. Maybe make it where he just kills everyone.
Okay, I'll see what we can do.
Yeah, okay. Alright, you work on that.
Hey, director of Him, Justin Tipping, it's Jordan. Yeah, go ahead and buy that Warhammer we were talking about.
Hey guys, it's JB, back with another ranking movies I saw in theaters. Just kidding, I lied. I'm Briella Antenor Cruz. I'm John's girlfriend, and I saw Paddington 3 with him. I saw Paddington in Peru with him, And I grew up really loving Paddington, especially the second movie. Paddington 2 is like unusually good. Like, it's better than it should be. And so I had a lot of high hopes for Paddington in Peru. I thought it was a very good movie if you are a little kid. I think it's a great family movie. But overall, I wouldn't say that it's as good as Paddington 2, but still a pretty solid movie about cinema's kindest bear. Also, go ahead and head over to Brie the Ant because I have my own channel where I knit and craft and do other things that John doesn't do. So, yeah.
I wouldn't say that this was a bad movie, but it wasn't really for me. I know that Paddington 2 gets a lot of hype for being an actually good movie, but I feel like they weren't really able to carry on with the essence that the original 2 had. I did really like the scene with all the bears reuniting though, because that was pretty cute. I remember watching the third Conjuring movie in theaters, and I really enjoyed all the suspense it brought and thought it was actually a good trequel. Wait, trequel? I don't know, third movie? I don't know. And I think that would have been a good end for the series, which is why this installment just feels so unnecessary. This movie is 2 hours and 15 minutes long, but when you're in the theater watching it, it seriously felt like it was double that. Seriously, I think my movie might have been cursed by the Annabelle doll, because it was almost impossible to sit through 2 hours and 15 minutes of the same story that we've already seen 3 times, except they have a kid now. I still don't think this movie is as bad as some of the reviews say, but it's definitely one of the weakest in the Conjuring franchise, which is why it fell so short for me. A24 is one of, if not my favorite film production studio ever, so it hurts for me to put one of their movies this low, but man, I just did not like Bring Her Back that much. I'm a huge horror fan, so I don't mind when a movie is just overly gory or like gross when it's trying to prove a point, but this movie just felt like it was doing it for no reason other than the fact that they wanted to have some kind of controversy over how gross they were being. I will say that like Hereditary, the portrayal of grief in this movie is done really well, where you really feel the emotions of the characters on screen when you're sitting in the movie theater. And I think Sally Hawkins actually did an incredible job with the character that she was given. But there were just a lot of plot points that were kind of unnecessary and just gross, like I said before. Like the aunt pouring the pee on that kid's pants every time that he fell asleep. But ultimately, the biggest problem with this movie was just that it wasn't a fun watch and it was hard to make it to the end of it. And I know, that was definitely a point they were trying to make with the movie, but I just didn't enjoy it as much because of that. I did really like the ending shot though of the aunt laying with her daughter in the pool. That was really well done. The sole reason for the monkey being this high on my list is just the fact that it surprised me so much. And I don't mean that by the fact that there's some huge plot twist or something. I mean that because it's surprisingly a comedy more than it is a horror movie. There's a lot of surprising absurdist humor throughout this entire movie, which me and my friends found really funny. So that made for a much better watching experience than I was expecting. But overall, The Monkey is just not a great movie and felt more like a streaming release rather than a $10 million movie with Elijah Wood and Adam Scott.
Do you wear wigs?
No, I do not.
Have you worn wigs?
No, I have not.
Will you wear wigs?
Maybe.
When will you wear wigs?
Kicking off the top 10 is a movie that I never expected to see or enjoy, and that's The Thunderbolts. Marvel definitely upped their game in 2025 compared to the movies that they had been releasing, because I went and saw this movie based off word of mouth alone. Having these characters who are basically nobodies amongst how massive the MCU has gotten is what really set this movie apart from other Marvel movies I've seen. Also, the main villain having the power that he can just disintegrate people was something that I really wanted to see how they'd stop. Of course, with all Marvel movies, the tropes are a little bit repetitive and you kind of always know they're gonna win, which is why I think Infinity War did so well. But this movie didn't fall as short as I was expecting it to. It was definitely refreshing in terms of how oversaturated the superhero genre has become. I was actually anticipating this movie a lot going into 2025, and it met my expectations pretty well. The first Final Destination was a classic horror movie, but as they kept going, they slowly started to fall off with each installment. However, like Saw X, I feel like this movie really redeemed the series and proved what it could be. From the opening scene with the tower, to the fake out deaths, to the characters literally dying end to end, this movie was full of so many surprises that actually made it a really entertaining watch. Because this is a Final Destination movie, it ends up just being kind of a fun experience rather than some kind of theatrical event. But I did really like the way that they were able to send off Tony Todd. I thought they did that really well. Growing up, I was actually a big fan of Henry Cavill and the Man of Steel movie. However, on rewatch, that movie is insanely slow, and I don't really like the direction that Zack Snyder was taking with the Superman character.
Kal-El, no!
I'm also a huge fan of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, so whenever I found out that James Gunn was redoing the DCU and this was going to be the first movie, I was more than excited. This movie is such a great depiction of what Superman should be, and not only is it close to what he's like in the comics, but it's actually a very enjoyable movie with well-written dialogue between the characters. I feel like the only reason this movie was really weighed down was because it stretched itself pretty thin with how many characters and villains it added to one movie, but ultimately I think it came out well and I can't wait to see what James Gunn does next. Side note, I saw this movie in those deluxe chairs at Cinemark, so it would shake every time Superman flied, which was kind of cool. But overall, it was a pretty good superhero film. I kept the Thunderbolts, Superman, and the Fantastic Four so close together because they were all pretty solid releases, but a superhero movie can only really go so far. Although, as far as superhero movies go, Fantastic Four First Steps was definitely my favorite of the year. I think something that really stood out to me in this movie was the setting, especially how they were able to replicate a futuristic 1960s New York City. And I also really enjoyed the performances from each of the main actors, especially Ibn Bachrach, because he was really good as the Thing and Richie from The Bear. You also really felt the stakes that they might lose or are going to, especially due to the post-credit scene from Thunderbolts. And speaking of post-credit scenes, this might be one of the most exciting ones I've seen in a while, as it got me really hyped up for Doomsday. Fantastic Four First Steps was definitely one of the highlights of the year that would have been just a little bit better if it didn't have so many unintentionally funny lines.
The wormhole is bending the beam!
And that Marvel cheesiness that a lot of Marvel movies tend to have. This is making me realize how many sequels I saw this year, jeez. The first Black Phone was such an enjoyable and original movie that had so much Stephen King essence throughout it that I was really looking forward to the sequel. And man, the Black Phone 2 didn't really disappoint. And yes, it is kind of cheap to just bring back the villain that you had in the first movie and say he's in hell. But you can tell how many stylistic choices they decided to make to try to make this movie different from the first one. My favorite part of this movie though has to be the focus on Finn's psychic sister, especially with how they shot those dream sequences because those were so cool. The grainy and dark shots was just such an interesting and refreshing concept that I found myself getting excited every time I saw it on screen. The only downside to this movie was that they really overdid the religious symbolism and all the religious comments, which I feel like is happening a lot in horror movies now and has just been so overdone for a while. But overall, I think it was a good sequel and it exceeded my expectations that I had going into it. If you asked me where I would have rated this movie when I came out of the theater, it probably would have been closer to the bottom, but The Long Walk really grew on me. The issue with Stephen King movie adaptations is a lot of them follow the source material too closely, and the characters' lines come out way too stiff, which is something that initially really bugged me about this movie. But sometimes that stiffness can actually have a little charm to it, and I really enjoyed the performances from a couple of the actors that led this movie. And I also think that the ending of this movie was pretty well done. It ended in kind of a sad way, which is rare for movies nowadays. I definitely need to watch this movie again, but it aged pretty well in my head, which is why I think number 5 is a good spot for it. A Stephen King movie is mostly always a good time. Mostly. At this point, Tim Robinson might be my favorite comedian. I absolutely adored Detroiters, I Think You Should Leave, and especially The Chair Company, so when I found out he had a movie coming out with A24 and Paul Rudd, I was ecstatic. This movie is hilarious, and it's even funnier on a second watch. Sometimes I think about clips from this movie and I just laugh out loud.
Welcome back, Craig.
Is it over?
Yeah, it's over. How long did your trip feel? 4 or 5 months?
It was like a minute. I went to Subway.
The eatery? What happened?
I ordered.
Did you get the answer you were looking for?
No, I ordered a sandwich at Subway.
I also surprisingly found myself enjoying a lot of the cinematic aspects of this movie. I think Andrew DeYoung did a really incredible job in his framing and coloring of each of these shots, and it was so nice to look at every environment that they placed Tim in. Whoever chose the outfits for Tim Robinson to wear did such a good job in selling his character, and the addition of all his clothes being from Ocean View Dining was hilarious. I even bought the physical version of this movie because man, am I a sucker for the A24 shop. But I also just really enjoyed the amount of effort and unique style that this movie had, so I hope we get more movies like this in the future. In 2022, Zach Cregger released his solo directorial debut, Barbarian, and I absolutely loved it. Barbarian had me on the edge of my seat the entire movie, and I really loved the suspense that he was able to build with the simple layout of the Airbnb and the characters that were staying in it. And needless to say, he amplified that suspense in weapons. From the opening needle drop with the children running, to the hilarious chase sequence at the end, this is what horror movies need to be. It was completely original, it was gory, and it kept you wondering what could possibly come next. When I tell you my entire theater gasped when they heard that car door open, I mean it. And as a huge Quentin Tarantino fan, I really liked how the different chapters opened up perspectives of the story that you hadn't seen before. Aunt Glady was also such a fun antagonist that was actually scary at times on top of her ridiculous demeanor. I can't wait to see what Zach Cregger does with the Resident Evil movie that he's making next, as he has my full faith in his ability to deliver some unique and suspenseful movies that we haven't seen before. Where do I even start with Sinners? This movie was incredible. Michael B. Jordan did such a great job at playing both Smoke and Stack that you forget that it's the same actor like 10 minutes into the movie. Ryan Coogler also did such an amazing job with this movie, especially with the cinematography. I'm still thinking of shots 9 months later, especially this one. Like, just look at the sky and the colors and the way that he had the subject literally jump over the camera. And don't even get me started on the music of this movie, bro. Ludwig Göransson, have you heard the Oppenheimer soundtrack? This dude is modern day Beethoven. And that scene in the barn where Sammy plays I Lied to You and the aspect ratio changes and all of the different spirits of modern and past come in is no joke one of the best sequences I've ever seen in my life. I struggle even writing about what I'm gonna say about this movie because there's not enough I can say to even explain how good it is as a whole. For these reasons and many more, Sinners is a must watch and I really recommend that you go see it if you haven't already. I didn't think Sinners would be beat until December 29th when I went and saw Marty Supreme with my girlfriend for the first out of what would be 3 showings of this movie that I went to. From the 80s new wave soundtrack to Tyler the Creator being an actor, the colors, the competition, everything, especially the ending, made this movie such a perfect combination of everything that I love about cinema. So much so that it feels like it was perfectly curated specifically to me. It's so rare now to get such a good original picture in the state that movies are in. I mean, half the ones on this list are basically sequels, because the industry is failing at understanding what we need the most: originality. Marty Supreme is a beautiful film. And while Marty Mauser is sometimes hard to watch with how rude and unapologetic he is, it just makes the movie better. These characters are written so well that the actors make you feel like that's who they truly are. And sometimes it really is. I feel like Josh Safdie went into this movie knowing who he was gonna cast for a couple of these people. And then some of them, like Timothée Chalamet, he basically taught him the role and Timothy adapted perfectly. I was even able to snag a few of these ping pong balls from the vending machine in the theater for myself and a couple of friends. Which leads me into another aspect of this movie that was really well done, which is the marketing. A lot of times nowadays, movies have these huge marketing campaigns that hype them up to be the greatest piece of art that's ever came out, which then leads people to go in with extremely high expectations that ultimately can't be met. From these super high expectations, most people that walk out of these movies end up being very dissatisfied, as it didn't meet these picture-perfect ideas that they had in their head. But with Marty Supreme, I feel like the movie perfectly matched the insane marketing that they were doing with Timothée Chalamet, as it made me feel like it was worth going to see even though it seemed like it was going to be underwhelming. Overall, I loved this movie, and I look forward to watching the rest of the Safdie brothers catalog, especially seeing whatever Josh is able to do next. And that's it as far as the movies I saw in theaters in 2025. I even got this A24 movie log, which has inspired me to see even more movies in the theaters. So hopefully this year I can watch even more and then rank them. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know it was a little bit longer than usual, but I had a lot of fun making it. Let me know down in the comments what movies you guys liked this year, your recommendations, and anything else you'd like. And yeah, thank you for watching. Good night.